right, my friends. I am grateful to be here, and my name is John. I am a recovered alcoholic and drug addict, and I think that's a great introduction. What Vicky said about the meditation app, this app that we use to meditate, that we connect with God, that we slow down our minds, and that we contemplate the changing of our speed and connecting with God. And I think that's my topic is prone. What am I prone to? And so I laughed when Vicky had talked about the app, because I use that app, I download that app, and I was really good at the app, and they keep track and they have scores. Like, it's not scores, it's not competitive, but I turn things into competitive. And it's like you unlock certain meditations. And so I got up to like Vicky was destroying me because she got it first, and she had all these opened meditations, and the 5 minute, the 10 minute, I do believe. And so I finally got up to the 10 minute one. And as she's introducing this way of meditating, I was like, wow, I haven't used that app in like a week. I'm like, it hasn't reminded me, it didn't tell me. And that's really the conversation that I want to have today. What is my heart prone to do? Why am I not prone to do certain things that are awesome for me, and I'm prone to do other things that aren't so awesome for me? And then where do I get life and validation? So what am I prone to do? Really, what that means is, what am I liable to do, or to suffer from? What am I prone to suffer from? When I think of, like, I remember buying a battery and then seeing the reviews of it, and these rechargeable batteries in the review, they were prone to leak out corrosive acid. And I'm like, that's not something to be good, to be prone of. And so the batteries haven't done that to me yet, but that's apparently what they're prone to do. So I need to actually look at that and be mindful of the batteries that I have. The other word that goes with prone is nature. Nature is the features or characteristics. I heard somebody say in a meeting, it's just the nature of the beast. And so when we put that in context, it's like, how do you be rid of this nature of whatever the beast is? What is this nature that is there? How do I change the nature? How do I change the features? How do I change the characteristics? When I look at a baseball bat is made very specifically for a purpose. And so it has features and characteristics that when when you swing a bat, it propels a ball when the bat hits the ball properly. I played baseball at a low to moderate level, and some of the guys could pitch really hard. Like they're pitching 80, 90 kilometers an hour. And if you hit the ball where the ball isn't supposed to hit the bat, your hands will ring. And if you've ever had the pleasure of a ringing hand, you can't even hold anything. It's like you get a shock down your whole arm. It's horrible. But if I hit the ball in the sweet spot of the bat, the ball, like there's a crack of the bat, like it's one of the best sounds. That popcorn in the microwave is an awesome sound, but the crack of a bat, and it's using its exact nature, the way it was designed, the way it's characterized, will propel a ball, make a beautiful noise, and hit it right out of the park. And then it's like glory land. Then you jog around the bases, high five everybody. And that's the exact nature. But what if the nature of something is that of a beast, or is that of corrosive leaking? And then, what is my nature? And part of recovery is really understanding the nature of myself, the nature of why I used to do what I do, and I'm sick of doing that. And so how do I change what I'm doing? I have to look at my exact nature. And I think for me, I'm really bad at self-appraisal. Like, I will give myself the gold star every time. Like, I'll probably give 5 gold stars. I will give you a couple gold stars, but I'm like giving myself like not just the 1 gold star. I'll give 5. And it's like, you see this on Kijiji, you see this on Facebook Marketplace, and somebody's trying to sell something, and they you could tell their heart's attached to it. It might be a fishing boat or some fishing gear, and that person is like a little bit attached to it. Maybe there's some identity in this. I'm just speaking from personal experience here. And you put that on Kijiji, and the price is up here, and everybody's, you know, sending you messages, and the price is down here, and you're like, why are people trying to rip me off? Why is everybody lowballing me? And it's like, well, because I haven't appraised what I want to sell properly. And so that's the beautiful thing about recovery. It walks us into this appraisal of my true nature, my true characteristics, what my true nature is, and what I'm prone to do and not do. And so how do I find this? How do I enter this? And there's different methodologies. There's different ways of doing it. We look at a 12-step approach. There's different 12-step fellowships. With LifeLab, we have this way of doing it in a deconstructive 12-step way, but it still leads us into the truth of finding my true nature, my true, what am I prone to do? And we look at this in kind of the inventory way. Like, if I have a store and I have these things on the shelf and I've assessed them in a certain way, but nothing's moving, nothing's being sold, and I have bills to pay, but nothing's getting off the shelves. The whole point of a store is to get these things going. And I have these things that aren't going. And I've had this stuff on the store shelves, and people are kind of looking at it going like, okay, that's been there a long time. Look how much dust it is. And then the next day I dust it off. I put a for sale sign. I say 2 for 1. And it's Chef Boyardee and maybe a pack of Joe Louis that have been sitting there since the late 70s. And people, no matter how shiny I get them, they're not going, no one wants them. And it's offensive to some people. And so how do I actually walk into seeing what's on the store shelf of my heart? Because that's where this problem lies into, and this is what I'm prone to do. And so we see this concept on page 72 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And this is where, if you're not familiar with the 12 steps, this is, basically it's the Bible for dummies. It walks you into a spiritual relationship with God. And so here's they're saying that after this personal inventory, after you've looked at all the things on your shelf of your heart, what shall we do about it? We have to try to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our past. We have omitted certain defects, so things that aren't there, things that are void, defects. We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out. This requires action on our part, which, when complete, will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defect. So we get to see these things, these characters in this process, looking at the storeroom of our heart. We get to see these behaviors, characteristics, the things that are, the things that are there. But the beautiful thing, it's not directing us to look at all this crap. It's going, why is it there in the first place? And that's the exact nature of what I'm actually looking for. There's some beautiful examples in this in biblical history. Real quick here, I have about 2 or 3 of them. A psalmist out of the book of Psalms, they say, how can a young person stay on the path of purity, the path of holiness? Well, by being in conscious contact with God. I seek you with all my heart. Do not let me stray. And that's from the earliest of man. It's like we have this heart that strays. And that's what I'm prone to do, is stray. We see the people that were slaves, the Israelites that were slaves in Egypt for a very long time. They got out, they were released, and they get to this mountain, and Moses, the leader, goes up to the mountain and comes down with the commands of how we should live in community, kind of like the traditions of 12-step group. And he comes down and he sees all the people, and they're dancing around a gold calf, and they're giving sacrifices, and it's just utter chaos. And everything was fine when he left, and he comes back a little while later, and they're off and running with a whole new religious system and sacrifices, all of this stuff. And it's no different than my experience. Paul in his book to the Romans says, I let me read it. For I know what is good itself does not dwell in me. That is in my sinful nature. This is my nature that I've been born with. I have the desires to do what is good, but cannot carry it out. For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil in me, I do not want to do it. I keep on doing it. That's the beautiful thing, is that that's the hope. And I'll get to that in a bit. That we all are born with this problem inside of us, this nature inside of us that causes us to look for ease and comfort. This proneness to be corrosive, this nature of the beast. I was reminded of the first story in the Bible, Adam and Eve, and the first conversation about God without God. They were tempted to do something that they weren't supposed to do, the one thing that they weren't supposed to do. So just between you and me, prohibition doesn't really work. That's awesome free will. But they walked into that conversation about God without God. Surely you will not die. And she eats the apple, and then he eats the apple. And then you immediately see what happens. Separated from God, we accuse, we defend, we blame, and then we try to cover it all up. And this is our exact nature apart from God. And we're all born apart from God. And then we really understand in Life Lab that we have these natural born desires and thirsts, and we talk about the worms, and that there is no bad worms. It's just how we get them. And so that's a story in probably the session 2 of Life Lab. And it's just this reminder that God has given us these thirsts and desires for sex and social and security, all of those things. But when we do it out of his order, when we do it out of our own strength, then we can have serious consequences. I know that Josh said this last week, but we were in business school for social enterprise. And one of the things they kept repeating is that social enterprises especially, but businesses fail because they get distracted by bright, shiny things. And what they're referring to in the social enterprise world is that a lot of us go for funding. A lot of us, it's all project oriented. And so if there's money out there for a project, everybody wants the money, but they'll go off of what they're supposed to be doing and all of a sudden doing something totally different because they can get $50,000 to do it. And so that's the nature of what I'm prone to do. I'm prone to go after bright, shiny things. I'm prone to go off track. I'm prone to wander. The culture that we live in exploits our desires. The culture that we're a part of actually exploits all of our desires. All of the things that we have inside of us, culture explodes that, and you see that with social media. You see that with our data plans and our phones, and it's this culture that really makes us want to be seen a certain way, happiness at all costs, all of this stuff. And so we live in a culture that actually exploits all of those things. So that's kind of where I'm at with really understanding through this process of inventory, and seeing all of this stuff is overwhelming. And it's like, there's so much here behavioral wise and character wise. Like, this is horrible. Like, I don't even like myself. This is embarrassing. But underneath all of that, there's this exact nature. And this is what I'm proposing, is from the earliest written story of Adam and Eve, they had the same nature. And so I have that nature, and it's not about all the things on the store shelf, but why are they there? And so for me, just like Adam and Eve, they wanted independence. They wanted to play God. They said, well, God surely won't kill us. We're made in his image. We're his image bearers. And we're not supposed to eat that because I'll know good and evil and I'll know all this stuff and he's withholding from me. And and I guess that's okay, but I still want to be like it. I want to know everything. I'm just going to eat the apple. And so I eat the apple and it's really being independent. That is the nature of me, is I want to be independent from God. I play God. And that's the whole point of the 12-step process, is lead us into relationship with God. I get to take my position as his child. He is the father. Some of the examples in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous says he is we are his agents, and he is the the organization, the sending, and so these concepts of God, he is the director, we are the actors. But typically my nature is to play the director, to be the actor, to give everybody their scripts, and at the end of the day I'm the producer of chaos and confusion. And so this is where my exact nature is, and I can see it as a whole. And the only thing that I can do about it, just like the beast with this nature, just like these batteries that are corrosive, the only thing that I can do is give that to God and go, would you take this away? What I can't even determine what's good and bad, even though I have great motives in a lot of things. But because of this nature and what I'm prone to do, is I just need to give it all to you. And so, one of a story that I heard, and I probably won't say it right, there was a flood, and a couple animals scurried up to a rooftop, and the water came up, and the little mouse, the little rabbit, and the scorpion were all taking refuge because they didn't want to drown. They can't swim. And so they see a goose go by, and they see the goose, and they're like, oh, today it's Salvation Day. Whoa, we got the goose. And the goose is like, okay, I'm on a rescue mission. I'm going to take you over to dry land. It's just across over there. I know that you guys don't, you got little paws, and you don't even have paws. I got you. I'm going to save you. So I can only take one at a time. So I'm going to take, who wants to go first? And the scorpion's like, I want to go first. I want to go first. And the goose is like, okay, but you're a scorpion and you sting people, so I'm going to maybe think about that later. So I'm going to take the mouse. He seems a little more fragile. They get going on their trip. The mouse is like singing songs and raising his hands and going, like, this is a glorious day. Drops off the little mouse. The little mouse is high five. Okay, the duck can't high five. The goose can't high five. But the goose goes back on mission, grabs the rabbit. The rabbit's trying to help a little bit. You know, he's got some long legs, and they get back to shore. And then he goes back, and he really wants to rescue the scorpion, but he's kind of scared of the scorpion. And he has a conversation when he gets back with the scorpion, and he's like, "You're a scorpion. You sting people. Like, I'm scared of you." And he's like, "No, I know I'm a scorpion. I won't do any stinging. I promise. Like, this is life and death." And so they get about halfway through, over to the shore, and the scorpion stings the goose. And the goose is like, "Why would you sting us? We're both going to die." And the scorpion's like, "Yeah, but I'm a scorpion. I sting people." and I'm like, that's me. I go around stinging people. I go around leaking on people. I'm corrosive. I have this nature inside of me that defines who and what I am and why I do it. And the reality is, I can't do anything about it but for the grace and power of God. He's the only one that can transform me. So that's the beautiful hope that I have in this relationship with God, and through this process of action, program of action, that I can go, this is what the exact nature is. It's not a bunch of behaviors that I can try to modify, but there is nothing that I can do about being a scorpion. Would you relieve me from the bondage of self? Would you relieve me of the bondage of being God? Would you relieve me of the bondage of doing your job, and let me be a simple field mouse or a little rabbit? I need to understand this stuff, but more than knowledge, I have to have the experience of transformation, of going from a corrosive battery, a scorpion, a beast, to a child of God. And so the other part that I've learned to address is what I'm prone to do, and that's to wander away from that, because I'm transformed one day at a time because of my relationship with God. I don't quit my addiction one day at a time. I keep in conscious contact with God one day at a time. It's not a one and done deal. I have to be every morning plugged into the source of power to come under the position of being the child. And so I am prone to not do that. I'm prone to go and run ahead. I'm prone to eat the apple. I'm prone to wander away. I'm prone to have this nature inside of me, this ego rebuild. And I have to take care of this on a daily basis. So that's the nature of the beast, but only God can transform that. But then it's my job to not be prone to wander away, but to stay in His presence. We are commanded to stay close to Him and do His work well. And I think for the most part, His work is being a positive influence to the world around you, to smile, to have His fruit come out of you in word and in action, and be present in the world around us. That is His work, and then drawing people into a relationship with Him.